It usually happens on a Tuesday afternoon, or maybe during a long commute home when the podcast fades out, or at 3 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of your refrigerator. It's a sudden, chilling drop in your stomach, a glitch in the matrix of your daily routine. You look at your inbox, you look at your calendar, you look at your bank account, your fitness tracker, your 5-year plan, and out of nowhere, a single, terrifying question echoes in your mind. What is the actual point of any of this? Society has a diagnosis for this feeling. We call it burnout. We call it depression. We call it a midlife crisis or the Sunday scaries or a chemical imbalance. We throw productivity hacks at it. We try to cure it with a new morning routine, a promotion, a vacation to Bali, or a new relationship. But what if I told you that this feeling isn't a malfunction? What if the dread you are feeling is actually the most accurate, rational, and piercingly true observation you have ever made in your life? You haven't lost your mind. You have simply brushed up against the terrifying truth of the universe. It does not care about you. The cosmos is completely indifferent to your promotion. The stars do not care if you clear your inbox. The universe has no grand, pre-written script for your life. There is no inherent meaning waiting to be discovered. This thought, this absolute crushing realization that nothing fundamentally matters, is called nihilism. And for most people, it is a psychological black hole. It paralyses them. But today, we are going to look that void dead in the eye, because I am going to show you how this exact realization, the darkest, most depressing thought a human being can have, is actually the ultimate psychological superpower. If the universe has no inherent meaning, then you are the absolute god of your own purpose. Welcome to the terrifying, intoxicating freedom of the absurd. To understand this superpower, we have to travel back to ancient Greece, to the ultimate symbol of torture and futility, the myth of Sisyphus. According to the legend, Sisyphus was a king who dared to defy the gods. He even managed to cheat death itself by trapping the Grim Reaper in chains. But you don't cheat the gods without paying a price. When they finally caught him, his punishment was brilliantly cruel. It wasn't fire. It wasn't torture. It was futility. Sisyphus was condemned to push a massive boulder up the side of a mountain. Every ounce of his strength, every drop of his sweat went into this singular task. But right before he reached the summit, the gods enchanted the rock. It would slip from his grasp and roll all the way back down to the bottom of the valley. And Sisyphus would have to walk back down and start again, forever, for all of eternity. Meaningless, endless labor with absolutely no payoff. Now let's fast forward a few thousand years. You wake up. You commute in traffic. You answer emails that don't matter. You sit in meetings that could have been emails. You buy groceries. You wash the dishes. You go to sleep. You wake up. You commute in traffic. You answer emails. We look at Sisyphus and we pity him. But in 1942, the French philosopher Albert Camus looked at Sisyphus and realized something horrifying. We are Sisyphus. Our lives are driven by routines that we did not design, pushing our own metaphorical boulders up the hill, only to watch the sun set, the rock roll back down and start again the next morning. Camus called this clash the absurd. The absurd is the violent friction between two things: humanity's desperate, biological need for life to have profound meaning, and the cold, silent, completely unreasonable universe that refuses to give us one. You are screaming into the Grand Canyon of the cosmos, asking, "Why am I here? What is the purpose of my suffering?" And the cosmos answers with absolute terrifying silence. So what do? Camus observed that people usually take one of two cowardly ways out of the absurd. Way out number one, physical escape, quitting the game entirely. Camus dismissed this immediately. It doesn't solve the problem, it just ends the experiment. Way out number two, philosophical escape. This is what most of us do. We invent illusions. We tell ourselves that the rock does matter. We construct elaborate stories. We tell ourselves that if we just get the corner office, the six-pack abs, the perfect spouse, or accumulate enough wealth, we will finally reach the top of the mountain. We build religions of productivity, consumerism, and status to convince ourselves that the boulder won't roll back down. But Camus said both of these are betrayals of your own intellect. To be truly free, you cannot run away from the meaningless reality of the rock. You must stare straight at it, which brings us to one of the most profound, mind-altering sentences ever written in the history of philosophy. Camus wrote, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy." When you first hear this, it sounds insane. How could Sisyphus be happy? He is in hell. He is trapped in a loop of pointless suffering. To understand this, we need to look at a very specific moment in the myth. It's a moment that most people ignore, but it is the exact moment where human freedom is born. The boulder has fallen. Sisyphus is at the top of the mountain, and now he has to walk back down into the valley to start over. Camus was obsessed with this exact moment, the walk down the mountain. Why? Because during the push-up, Sisyphus is distracted. He is straining. He is hoping maybe, just maybe, this time the rock will stay. He is enslaved by the illusion of arrival. But as he walks back down the mountain, his hands are empty. The illusion is shattered. In this moment, Sisyphus is fully conscious. He knows exactly what his fate is. He knows the rock will fall again. He knows his labor is futile. And yet, he walks down anyway. This is the birth of the ultimate psychological flex, active absurdism. Sisyphus realizes that the gods can control the rock. They can control the mountain. They can control gravity. But they cannot control what happens inside his mind. By walking down that hill with total clarity, accepting his fate without hope, and choosing to push the rock anyway, Sisyphus becomes the master of his own destiny. He denies the gods the satisfaction of his despair. His sheer, stubborn persistence becomes an act of profound rebellion. He doesn't push the rock because it means something to the universe. He pushes the rock because he decided it means something to him. Let's map this onto your psychology right now. Let's talk about the arrival fallacy. Think about the last time you achieved something massive. You graduated. You got the job you desperately wanted. You bought the car. You hit that financial milestone. Remember the weeks leading up to it. You thought, once I get this, I will finally be happy. I will have arrived. The void will be filled. You pushed the rock to the top of the hill, and then what happened? You got the job, you popped the champagne, you felt a rush of dopamine for about 48 hours, and then a Tuesday morning arrived. You woke up, you looked around, and you realized you still had to make breakfast. You still had to commute. You still felt that creeping anxiety. The rock rolled back down the mountain. The misery of the modern world is that we are pushing rocks, but we are convinced that one day the rock will stay at the top. We are constantly living in the future, suffering in the present for a payoff that will never permanently satisfy us. Camus is offering you an exit code from this psychological prison. The exit code is giving up on the illusion of arrival. It is the terrifying freedom of realizing there is no finish line. The struggle is the entire point. Philosophy is useless unless it changes how you operate on a random Thursday night. So let's apply absurdism to the most mundane, frustrating parts of your life. Let's talk about washing the dishes. Washing dishes is the ultimate Sisyphean task. You clean them, you put them away, and 12 hours later they are dirty again. It is endless, circular, and completely meaningless in the grand scheme of the cosmos. When you stand at the sink feeling resentful, feeling like you are wasting your precious time, you are suffering. Why? Because you are functioning as a passive nihilist. You are annoyed that the universe requires maintenance. You are wishing you were somewhere else, doing something important. Now let's inject Camus into the kitchen. What if you accept completely and utterly that this moment is all there is? There is no cosmic judge grading your dishwashing. There is no future where you will never have to clean up after yourself. The universe is silent. Therefore, you have absolute freedom to turn this mundane task into an act of rebellion. You feel the warm water on your hands. You focus entirely on the physical sensation of the sponge against the ceramic. You decide, in this exact microsecond, that doing this task perfectly, with total presence, is your chosen purpose. Not because it will save the world, but precisely because it won't. You are taking an inherently meaningless universe and forcing it to yield to your subjective joy. You are smiling at the silent cosmos and saying, You give me no meaning, so I will extract profound, absolute joy from this warm water and this soap. I am the architect here. This is how you weaponize nihilism. If nothing matters objectively, then the pressure is entirely off. You don't have to be remembered in 1,000 years to have lived a good life. You don't need a perfectly optimized morning routine to justify your existence. That embarrassing thing you did 5 years ago, the universe didn't record it and it doesn't care. When you realize you are not the protagonist in a grand cosmic movie, you are suddenly free to just play. Think about it. If you play a video game, you know the digital world isn't real. You know that when you turn off the console, your progress ultimately means nothing to the real world. Does that make you put the controller down? No, it makes you play harder. It makes you take risks. It allows you to enjoy the mechanics of the game without existential terror. Your life is the ultimate open-world sandbox. The constraints, the gravity, the struggles, the rocks you have to push, those are just the mechanics of the game. So let's return to that terrifying moment we started with. The glitch in the matrix. The 3:00 a.m. dread where you ask, what is the point? The next time that wave of existential anxiety hits you, I want you to stop running from it. I want you to lean into it. Let the void wash over you. Look at the vast, uncaring universe. And then I want you to smile. Because in that realization is the death of your anxiety. If there is no script, you cannot fail. If there is no universal metric for success, you cannot fall behind. Your rock might be your career. It might be raising your children. It might be battling an illness. It might simply be getting out of bed and facing your own mind every single day. The universe will not applaud you for pushing it, but you do not need its applause. You push the rock because you are alive. You push the rock because the friction of the stone against your hands is proof that you exist. You push the rock because the absolute refusal to surrender to the darkness is the most beautiful thing a human being can do. Do not wait for a perfect life that will never arrive. Claim this life. Claim your rock. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. But here is where I need to be brutally honest with you. When you first accept that the universe has no script for you, you will not feel liberated. You will feel terrified. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard described anxiety not as a medical disorder, but as the dizziness of freedom. Imagine standing at the edge of a massive cliff. The fear you feel isn't just the fear of falling off. The deepest, most secret terror is the sudden realization that you could choose to jump. You are entirely in control. There are no guardrails. When you strip away the comforting lies of society, when you realize that your career track is made up, that your timeline for marriage is a cultural invention, that your definition of success was programmed into you by a television commercial when you were 7 years old, you are left staring at a blank canvas. And a blank canvas is the most terrifying thing in the world. This is why most people run back to their metaphorical boulders. We actually prefer the suffering of a meaningless job, a toxic relationship, or the endless treadmill of hustle culture because it gives us an excuse. It gives us a script. We tell ourselves, I am suffering, but at least I know what I am supposed to do tomorrow. We would rather be enslaved by someone else's rock than bear the agonizing responsibility of choosing our own. Because if you are the ultimate god of your own purpose, it means you have absolutely no one left to blame. If your life is miserable, you can't blame the universe. You can't blame your boss. You can't blame the economy. You chose the rock. To be an absurdist requires a level of psychological accountability that most people are completely unwilling to shoulder. Look around. Society is a marketplace of false rocks. Cults, political tribalism, hyperconsumerism, extreme internet fandoms. These are all industries designed to cure your existential dread. They say, hey, does the void terrify you? Are you dizzy with freedom? Come over here, push this rock, hate this political party, buy this brand, worship this influencer. We will give you an identity so you don't have to build one from scratch. How do you know if you are pushing a false rock? It's simple. A false rock requires you to believe that the summit is real. If you are grinding at a job you hate because you believe the promotion will finally make you feel complete, you are pushing a false rock. If you are obsessing over your physical appearance because you believe hitting a target weight will finally make you love yourself, you are pushing a false rock. You are living in the future, which means you are not actually living at all. You are a ghost haunting your own present life, waiting to be resurrected by an achievement. So how do we dismantle this? How do we live as active, rebellious absurdists in a world that constantly tries to put us back to sleep? You don't need to quit your job and move into the woods. Absurdism isn't about destroying your life. It's about fundamentally rewriting the code of why you live it. Here is the three-step framework to weaponizing your freedom. Step 1. The audit of meaning. Tonight, I want you to look at the three things that cause you the most stress. Your finances, your relationship, your career, whatever they are. Write them down. Then ask yourself this brutal question. If no one could ever see my progress, would I still care about this? If you are only doing it for the gaze of other people, if you are pushing the rock just so the neighbors can see you sweat, drop it. Let it roll into the valley. Reclaim your energy. Step 2. The practice of micro-rebellions. The universe tries to crush you with monotony, traffic jams, long lines, tedious paperwork. Your defense mechanism is to inject completely irrational joy into these moments. When you are stuck in gridlock, do not fume. Turn on a piece of classical music and conduct the orchestra from your steering wheel. Smile at the absurdity of millions of metal boxes trapped on a strip of asphalt. Find the humor in the cosmic joke. When you laugh at the boulder loses its weight. Step 3. Amor Fati, the love of fate. This is the ultimate evolution of the absurdist. You must not only accept the struggles of your life, you must actively embrace them. When your heart gets broken, when you fail the exam, when the business goes bankrupt, you do not ask the silent sky, "Why me?" You look at the wreckage and you say, "Good, more material, more friction, more life to experience." You are a brief, flashing anomaly of consciousness in a universe of dead rocks and cold gas. You have maybe 80 years to exist before you return to the void. Do not waste a single second of that time waiting for the universe to tell you what your life means. It won't. And that is the most beautiful, liberating gift you could ever receive. Your meaning is in the coffee you drink. It is in the conversation with your friend. It is in the pain of a hard workout, the tears of a breakup, and the quiet dignity of doing your job well when no one is watching. It is in the push. Take your hands out of your pockets. Walk down into the valley. Find a rock that you genuinely want to push and put your shoulder against the stone, not for the gods, not for society, but for you. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy.